Allen, and I'm joined by my usual broadcast partner, former NHL defenseman Tom Laidlaw, who played 11 seasons for the New York Rangers and Los Angeles Kings. This is the Laidlaw and Allen Report. We come to you twice a week, talk all things hockey and a little bit of cooking and some current events. But today, Tom, we've got a lot of hockey to unpack.
Yes.
And we're going to get to the Rangers, which I know you will like to talk about. But I want to start with kind of the story that's kind of created a buzz around the hockey world already this morning. Steve Dryden of TSN, who formerly worked at the Hockey News, wrote a column yesterday when he said Connor McDavid is the best hockey player ever. Now, before we start that, it's important for everyone to understand that we need to define the word best. And I think that's what makes this argument interesting. What Steve is saying is we used to talk about it in terms of the greatest and best. And he said, I'm not arguing that Connor McDavid is the greatest hockey player. What I'm arguing is he's the best hockey player in terms of he is the evolution of the game. Like he is at a level with his talent and his ability that we've never seen before. Nobody has ever done it the way that he has done it, and he is the best. So that's his definition of best. But he said he's not going to argue greatest. Greatest is kind of the comparison of production and aura and everything else.
Stanley Cups winning. That whole
Yeah, I'm not sure I would use the word best because I think that's a little bit confusing, but I understand what Steve is saying. I think what he's saying is that Connor McDavid is the most talented player. That's not what I would say, the most talented player. But what do you think about all that? The greatest, best, Connor McDavid?
Well, first of all, undisputably, he is a fantastic athlete. There's just no question. And he's doing things that we have never seen before. There's no question about that. I guess we have a hard time defining that is that with the rule changes, the changing of equipment, training methods. Would Wayne Gretzky have been able to do more if people like myself couldn't hook and hold and slash and do all the things we could do back then? They can't do that now. You can't do the can opener. So the old play with me was very easy. You put your stick between the forward's legs and you just twist a little bit. It's a can opener, and he can't do the things he wants. You can't do that now to Connor McDavid. You're going to take a penalty. So again, that's not trying to take away from his skill level. There's no question. But again, you can't defend against him now the same way we were able to defend back in the day in the 80s and 70s, 80s, and 90s. So it was a whole different thing. So I just wonder how much that would affect. But again, that would be my only negative towards that statement is how can you really tell? Because again, they're playing under different rules, different equipment. So I have a hard time saying he's the best, but.
Yeah, the thing about it is, again, that, it gets down to the definition. I think Steve, if he was here, would argue, yeah, but you're missing my point, Tom, because what I'm saying is it doesn't matter what he could or couldn't do. It's his talent and his ability to, he in the story, in the column, and I thought it was interesting, he quoted some people saying, I think it might have been Craig Button that said, he says he can skate like Bobby Orr, he can think like Wayne Gretzky. And he's got hands like Lemieux, and he's even got some physical presence now in the postseason that we haven't seen before. At least I would say not to this level. And I think that's what he's arguing. He's averaging not what he accomplished, not what he did.
So Ron Greshner chimes in here. Maybe you should look at Bobby Orr's old videos. See, that's
but again, again, we're talking. I mean, in terms of talent, Gretzky's got a great point, though. If you're talking about talent, which is what I think he's trying to talk about, that's the word I would use,
right.
Talent. Or may have had it all. I mean, he was a physical guy.
Yes, yeah.
In addition to being able to skate, and we know he had hands and everything else. So, I mean, in terms of being a physical specimen, Wayne isn't really there.
Oh, no, not at all.
I mean, he was a thinker, and he used strategy and everything else. So Ron's point is a valid one. Because we're, if I understand it correctly, now maybe I've got it wrong too. I mean, I take what Steve is saying is he's the most talented, and even in that argument, I think it's close between him and Orr.
So Steve is trying to say then that Connor McDavid, just based on his skill level, the things he can do on
skill, he's the best skill. He's the best package of a hockey player.
So it's not the guy that makes his team makes better, or any of that kind of
No,
stuff.
none of that. I mean, he's clear about that in his column. It's not. We're not talking about the greatest player.
Right.
He's just talking about. I mean, again, I hope I understood it correctly because we're talking semantics here.
Yeah,
Greatest, best. I mean,
but it is important to define what his definition of best.
Yeah, no, it is, and I mean, it's just an interesting deal. I mean, basically, and we hear this all the time. We've never seen anybody make plays at the speed Connor McDavid could do it, or at least the kind of plays he makes.
Right. Bobby Orr certainly made plays, but he wasn't going to be doing it at the speed that Connor McDavid was doing. Yes.
I mean, in general, you always see players, they go into that coast mode before they make their plays. They're not striding, and we've seen Connor McDavid in full stride just do phenomenal things. And so I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it because I think, again, it's semantics.
Right. But I would have to, if you're just saying, okay, we're going to look at this player and his skating ability, his stick handling, his shooting, his passing, and all those things that just purely on skill, I think you make a pretty good argument. There's never been anybody like him. That's for sure.
Well, that is, the argument that there's, I mean, that's what he's talking about. He's talking about the evolution of the player, so, and I think he even used that word, evolution of the player, that we've now reached the point because Connor McDavid has some size too. He's not 5'10".
Right.
He's not 5'11". He's, he's got some, bulk to him.
Right. But so Ron's makes a good point here too. Now, maybe this is irrelevant. This isn't part of Steve's argument. Or like the speed that Orr did it at his time, right? The game was not as fast then. So his speed was equal to Connor McDavid's speed based on the time period, right?
Yeah. I mean, again, I think that's fair. I mean, that's why I say that I think there is an argument for Orr, even on, if I understand correctly what Steve is saying, even on the comparison of overall talent, because Orr's package was pretty darn good.
Totally. Yeah.
I always wondered, what if Orr had been a center?
I know. What if he didn't get hurt too? The career.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. That goes without saying. Yeah. I mean, because in today, he'd have had his knee scoped and been back at it. But then, I think those surgeries back then did as much damage as they corrected them.
Totally. Didn't know how to rehab either. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. But I mean, I think that's but if you wanted to say to me, and I've said this before, Wayne Gretzky was the best creator that I've ever seen. I thought Mario was the best goal scorer. He was just money on breakaways. He was better than Wayne on breakaways. Yeah. I thought that Bobby Orr was the most spectacular player I ever saw.
Changed the game the most. He really changed the game.
He revolutionized the game. Although all these players did in some regard. Now, not as much as Bobby did, because Bobby's, puck rushing. And then I would say Gordie was the best all-around player that I ever saw, Gordie Howe. Yeah. And then I could then say, and Connor McDavid has the best overall skill package, the combination of size, speed, hands, creativity, because he's a thinker. I mean, that between the legs pass that he did the other day, which you would have hated in your era. Now it's commonplace.
Oh, totally, yeah.
And the one, the shot between the legs, which I mean, wouldn't you think that would have been a hot dog play back when you were playing?
Yeah. We would have ran him. We'd be yapping at him all the time. He would have done that again.
Yeah. So. Anyway, I thought it was great. There's been a lot of discussion about it. Everybody's in, and a lot of people just can't get beyond.
Yeah.
They don't want to think about the definition. They want to say, "Oh, he's not the greatest player." It's Howe, it's Gretzky, it's Lemieux. Everybody's got a favorite player, Bobby Orr.
Yep.
So
and I think that makes it a pretty good argument too, right? I mean, based on the time that they played, who they played with, skill level, all that. Yeah.
Well, but I agree with you though. I think. It's hard to compare eras, but you can, because what you do is you tell yourself, if Gretzky would be playing now, he'd be playing at 205, 209. He'd be bigger. He'd be bulked up. His skating would be even better. Bobby Orr's skating would be better because they'd work at it. There's skating coaches. Everybody's defense would be better. I mean, Gordie would probably.
And again, the rules being different too. I mean, she's like as a defenseman before. we would do anything possible. I've never
Right.
mirrored you would just basically grab him and hold on to him and not let him go. You
Yeah.
can't do that right now. Yeah.
Yeah, like how much do you think you would play in the? What would be your weight in the modern game?
I'd be heavier. I played around between 205 and 210.
Yeah, you'd have been 220.
Totally. It'd
Yep,
be smarter.
sure.
Like I learned now, my training now is totally different. The things I know
Right.
about training now, the diet, everything. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I don't think you would have hammered the beers
No.
as much as you did now. Nutrition is such a big part of it, and energy, and
Yeah, the whole culture was different. The drinking the beer was part of the culture. The team
Right.
supplied the beer. They wanted the guys together. That was all part of it. Yeah, the guys now. I mean, listen, even financially as a business. I mean, my first salary in the National Hockey League was $60,000 a year. The most I ever made was I think $310 in Los Angeles. I bet you now as a player, I'd probably be like that $5 million a year player. So you look at your, like we gave everything we had back then. It wasn't like we weren't dedicated to our sport, but it was a whole different mentality about how you treat yourself. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I've said this before on this program, but I said to a player today that said, if you want to eat a hamburger, you got to do it by yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you're with a teammate now, he's all over you.
Yeah. Well, how about the big story out of Florida though, where somebody supposedly was tied into a lot of people down in Tampa. There's a strip joint, and the night after the third game, Florida lost, and they had to play back to back. So I think it was a Sunday night, or I can't remember the timing of it. But they were all apparently a lot of the guys were in the strip joint till 3:00 in the morning, and had to play that night and lost the fourth game. Now that's the story. Whether that's accurate or not.
Wow. Well, it's funny because that fits right into what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
Just talking about how everything is different. You guys used to play back-to-back games.
Yeah.
So after that first game, would you guys say, well, we're playing tomorrow, so we're not going to drink?
Oh,
Of course
no,
you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd go out and drink. So, I mean, you still had alcohol in your system when you were playing the next day. And today, I think some guys would not do that. I mean, there are guys now that are so dedicated to their fitness that they just wouldn't do it. Now, not everybody. I mean, obviously, you have evidence to support that.
And that was part of it too. It kind of sounds a little barbaric to talk about it now, but that was part of it. So the guys would all go together. Here's the thing: like Edmonton was famous for this. They go on like a 2-week road trip, but when they got home, they all had to go to a bar in Edmonton first and have a couple of beers before they could go home to their families. That was the mentality, and so we were like that too. When we went particularly on the road, but at home as well. The guys were it wasn't like it was a rule that you had to do it, but it's kind of frowned upon. If you don't go be with your teammates, at least have a couple of beers, then you're hurting the team. And part of what happened with that too is that if guys went and have beers together the next morning or next game, whenever they were going to play again, we all looked at each other like, hey, we all know what we did last night. We all went and had a few beers. Don't let that get in the way of you doing your job and working hard out here tonight. That was kind of the mentality, So it's like we all held each other accountable. Listen, you had a couple beers, that's fine. Hey, you're a grown man, you go do it. But you better come and show up at practice or games or both. So,
yeah. Well, it's interesting too about how leadership was defined as well. I've had players tell me who didn't know that I had heard this story before from other players that said what they loved about Chelios as the team leader is at the end of the night when everybody was done drinking, it was Chelios who organized everybody to get them in cabs to get home.
Yeah,
he didn't want any of his teammates ended up being pulled over or having everything else. So like Chelios would essentially assess where you were, and he would either load you in someone else's car who wasn't, or he'd make sure that a cab driver got you out of that. And guys have brought that up to me on, from different eras that said that's what Chelios was known for, is making sure everybody got home, So
very true.
It's just part of leadership, So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely back then it was. Yep.
Yep. Anyway, so we've kind of exhausted that topic, but I thought it was a fun one, and certainly one that is worth exploring. Although even if you were arguing the greatest, there is no answer because I'm sure Gresh would vote for Orr. I grew up in Detroit. I would go for Gordie Howe. And would you do Gretz? I mean, you knew Gretz.
Played with Gretz and saw him. To me, the whole package with him was on ice, off ice, everything with him. Yep.
And I don't. There's no right answer there.
Yeah.
Gresh is right. I'm right. You're right.
Yeah. I like that.
So.
Well, the Gresh is wrong. This made Gresh wrong.
Well, that's up to you. But I Scotty Bowman's with Gresh. I've had with numerous conversations, and it's hard on Scotty because he loved Gordie. Yeah. But he just thought, that he changed the game, as you pointed out. Yeah. So anyway, all right, let's talk about that Ranger win.
Ooh, man. I'll tell you what, my new favorite player, and I somewhat doubted him during the season, not his ability and his heart, but more his size. Lindgren for the Rangers now, like, it's amazing to watch. The rumor is he's got a broken foot or whatever it is, but he's playing hurt. But he's playing like a warrior out there too. Last night when he took a shot and ultimately Fox tipped it in and scored, the reaction from everybody was like sometimes, the guy that scores that goal, like Fox in this case, he's going to be jumping up and down. He's happy he scored a goal. First thing he did was skate right to Lindgren, because they know what he's going through to play and the warrior that he is. Like, he's really become a huge part of that team and their mentality. You can see last night Trouba took a run at the end of game 3. Yes, the end of game 3, Max Domi went after Lindgren and cross-checked him, and they had a little scuffle. And Trouba went after Domi yesterday. And Domi was just falling down at the same time, and he just drilled him. One of the other players for Carolina came over and started a fight, took a 2-minute penalty, and the Rangers scored on that power play. So what I love about the Rangers is Zibanejad, Kreider are all playing better, scoring points now. Shesterkin is back to being the goaltender that we thought he was going to be. But it's also, they've cranked up their intensity and their grit level and their heart level. Not that they didn't have it before, but they really showed. Reeves got in D'Angelo's face there, and they were yapping at each other. So there was no more like the Rangers reacting to somebody doing something to them. They went out and made things happen, particularly last night. That was a fantastic game. They're playing great. That's going to be that series. I'd be totally shocked if it doesn't go 7 games.
Well, Carolina, you got to win on the road if you're gonna.
Yeah,
I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, 0-5 on the road. Like, how do you even explain that?
But you know what, though? I don't think they're playing any different. Like last night was a different game. The Rangers really had a fantastic game. But seriously, Carolina missed an empty net. They had a couple of posts.
Yeah.
I don't think they're playing any differently on the road than they are at the home.
Shesterkin, I mean, you're absolutely right. Like, the save he made on Teravainen last night, which I thought was, just kind of an indicator of where he is back in his game. I'll tell you, if you leave aside your allegiances, like you don't love either team, but you're just a fan of hockey. What you're rooting for right now, at least in my opinion, is Shesterkin versus Vasilevsky in the conference final.
The only bad thing is people may view it as boring because nobody's going to score any goals. But
but those guys are both pretty dynamic in their goaltending. But I mean, honestly, you have the best goalie this season in Shesterkin. Yeah. With not maybe, the best goaltender in the game. Yeah. I mean, like the zone that Vasilevsky is now in, because he'd been relatively ordinary by his standards. Now, not ordinary. Like he was still identifiable as an elite level goalie, but we've seen him so unbelievable that I thought he was ordinary. Coming into Game 7. But since that Game 7, he's had 5 games where he's given up either 1 goal or no goals. He's got like a 9, no save percentage in any game has been under 968. Right. He did 49 saves in his last, game, and he just looks invincible.
I know.
He's gone from Clark Kent to Superman.
He kind of reminds you of remember Billy Smith. Now, Billy Smith wasn't as good of a goaltender, but Billy Smith would have a lot of those regular seasons where he was good. He was still one of the best goalies, but wasn't as great. But then come playoff time, he was just a warrior out there. And he had different styles, different levels of play. But it's the same thing. And I think Vasilevsky is now, he says, okay, now I've won my cups. I know what it takes to get here. Just got to get into the playoffs. And then I'm going to crank it up and play my Vasilevsky game. But I agree with you, the two of them together. And again, I talk about it so much. Shesterkin, what I love as a defenseman watching him play, it's that when he makes a big save or whatever, it's just, okay, that's fine. No big deal, guys. We're all relaxed. The team seems to relax more around him. Yeah, it's good.
Well, I think goalies like that get into players' heads. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So
I agree totally.
But it's probably not something you thought about. You weren't thinking about goal scoring, but guys that are up front trying to battle away,
So what happens is if you see Shesterkin in that and he's playing that well, now you're trying to pick a corner, right? You're trying to I can't just shoot, an average shot. I got to pick a corner. Now you end up missing the net part of the time, or you just panic so much you just blast it and hit him in the pads because you're thinking right.
Well, sometimes it cracks me up though. What do you always hear at this time is you got to take away his eyes, Yeah. And the only reason I laugh at that is I said this. I was on a program with another writer. And he was saying, well, they've got to take away his eyes. They got to get traffic. And I said, yeah, because Vasilevsky's never seen that before.
Yeah.
Never had to contend with bodies in front of them. This would be all that'd be new to them. I mean, that would be something he hadn't seen.
New strategy, yeah, new strategy.
Yeah, I mean, they face this all the time. They get it. They know how to peek around and all that kind of stuff. At least the ones that are good, they don't care. Maybe the guys that aren't so good, have trouble with it. But I guarantee you, Vasilevsky isn't telling everybody, you got to keep those guys clear. What do I do if I can't see it? So, but the goaltending with Shesterkin and Vasilevsky, I think, would just be incredible. And, the talent level of those teams, too. I mean, the one thing that's sort of missed, I think, by the common fan is this Ranger group. It's a talented group.
They really are. Again, I still don't like, even Panarin isn't on top of his game, I don't think either. So there's still more talent to be shown. That's amazing.
Right. And the one thing about Tampa that we're seeing that we haven't seen earlier, and we had talked about the fact that I had sort of been paying attention to them. I like that team. I like to watch that team. Their compete level is raised exponentially.
You look points still out too, right?
Yeah.
So there's an important player for him out of the lineup. Yeah.
But you watch how those guys are competing now on the power play in the third period. In Game 4, like they were just scrapping. Trying to get the puck, and they're on you. So, and then that series out west between the Oilers, I give the Oilers have raised their level. Like everybody was talking about goaltending, forget goaltending. It's about Connor McDavid, taking over that series, and the Calgary having no clue of what to do.
Totally shocked by that. I thought that Dave, especially with Sutter there, he'd have something put together. They're talking about which lines they're putting against Connor McDavid's line. I wouldn't be as worried about what line they've got against him. It's more the defensive pairing. I remember Scotty Bowman when he was coaching Detroit, and Detroit was playing Philadelphia in the finals. I can't remember what year it was. And they had the Legion of Doom, right? Lindros, LeClaire, and whatever the guy was. And he put Nick Lidstrom and Larry Murphy, out there against him. I thought, they're going to get run over. What's he thinking about? But he was smart. Those guys were mobile. You couldn't outmuscle that line. They were too big to be outmuscled. So don't try to outmuscle them. Be smart against them. And it works. So, in your ear, I remember,
the big story was always, who would the shadow be? Rangers had Jan Eriksson and Casper. Tikkanen was a guy as well. Yeah. But I remember talking with Scotty in the 90s, and I asked him, well, what line do you put on? He goes, well, I don't know. I don't really care. I'm going to match up defensemen. He could care less who the forwards were. He wanted to, like you said, having Lidstrom out against that line and all that.
When Robbie Ftorov coached in LA, you know how much I loved Robbie, total respect for him. We were playing against Pittsburgh, and Mario was in town, and he wanted Mike Allison to shadow and Mario, and Mike was great at that. Mike was a fantastic defensive player, very responsible, everything. But when the puck was in their zone, Pittsburgh zone, Mario would just come and stand by me at the blue line, and then Mike Allison, the three of us are standing there, we're all like, you tell Mario's kind of laughing, like, oh, this is working pretty good. So because now we're outnumbered 4-3, and so we finally went to Robbie between periods. So Robbie, that's just not working.
It's not working. Yeah. That's my favorite from the movie. It's a basketball movie, but it still applies to this as well. Hoosiers. Love that movie. And, Gene Hackman tells this guy, you got to cover him. Like at the end of the game, I need to know what brand of chewing gum he is. And so after the game is a big play, and the guy walks by him and says, by the way, it was Juicy Fruit.
Yeah, that's right.
And I thought that was a great, because, the same thing goes in hockey. If you're in the guy's back pocket, I mean,
sometimes teams would do that during the regular season. Like Edmonton did that against Wayne a few times. They would have Tikkanen shadowing Wayne in regular season games. Once we got to the playoffs, they didn't do it anymore. And I was really surprised by that. Like maybe they're just trying to mess with us or whatever, thinking, okay, this is what we're going to do come playoff time. And they didn't.
But Tikkanen was funny too, because he would talk to opponents, and we used to call it Tikkanlish. Tikkanlish was sort of half Finnish, half American English, and then just gibberish that he would throw in, and you didn't even know what he was saying half the time.
We were in a game, Edmonton against LA, and he was yapping something to me, and Craig McTavish was standing there watching the whole thing. And when Tikkanen skated away, McTavish goes, "We don't understand what he says either, so it doesn't matter." You can tell I was like, "What?"
I mean, and there's no translator that can figure all that out. But I love the European players. It's less prevalent now because guys are more skilled in languages. But in the older days when it would be a mixture of English and then whatever nationality they were, and then cuss words. They would always have those down. So they'd be telling you after the game what was going on, and they'd forget and slip into Czech or whatever they had, and then there'd be some F-bombs and mixed in. So
what about the St. Louis, Colorado series where Cadre is getting death threats? They had to have extra police.
Yeah,
wow.
That's where we are in the world today.
I know.
And
we'd be remiss. I know you feel the same way. We should be careful. We need to touch on this shooting that happened in Texas too. We don't want to not pay attention to that. Again, we're a sports show, and I'm sure we're like all people, whether you've got kids or not. It's just that's a sad thing.
Well, it is. It's absolutely horrible. And what bothers me even more than the horror is that it looks almost like there's copycats here, that people look at and see what one person did and say, I got to do that.
And maybe this is a coincidence too. I heard Boomer Esiason say this on the radio show this morning. It's teenage boys too. Now maybe this is just a coincidence that's happened. I don't know.
Well, there are people who sort of follow those things. The Buffalo shooting, I read somewhere that he was online kind of discussing his racism. I don't know if this one yesterday was racial in nature, but and he had an audience of 15 people. So it's just sad that we have these sickos out here and doing.
I just hope too we just don't get accustomed to this and just say, okay, this is just the way the world is now. I mean, we can't get to that point.
It doesn't happen in any other country but ours.
I know.
I mean, they don't have these mass shootings, especially with the frequency that we have, unless it's terrorists from the outside, not domestic terrorists. But getting what you said about the death threats, I have long been fearful since the advent of social media that we're going to see an athlete killed. Because you build up your hatred. There are you can find other like-minded people that will support you because there are a lot of
and it wouldn't take much, when you go in for a pregame skate or before the game, very often those players are walking through the fans, or the fans would have access to them, at least close enough that they can do something to them too. So
I just hate that. I'm a little disappointed that the St. Louis team has not said anything.
So it all started, didn't Kadri run Bennington? Is that what started it and hurt him?
There might have been some incident before then, but what happened is that on the play that Bennington got hurt, it was Kadri, and he was tangled up with the defenseman. Now, everybody, again, this is the problem with video replays. We all look at a replay, and, I've heard people say, oh, he didn't mean anything by it. And I've heard people say, it's, look at his reputation. He knows what he's doing. He wanted the cover of having the guy on him, but he was really going there. Well, I don't know. I can't get in his head. I don't know what he was doing. I have my opinion. But it's the same thing on some of these, in the Lucic play when he runs into Smith. Although he had a great quote on that, by the way. I don't know if you saw what he said the next day, but he said, if I wanted to hit him badly, we both wouldn't be playing today. And that's certainly true. If he meant to hurt him, he would have hurt him. So, but clearly, I've seen it done on a telestrator. He had outs. There were ways for him to avoid it, and he just chose to. I mean, he did pull up. I mean, he didn't hit him hard, but he was vulnerable. So I'm talking about Lucic. But Kadri runs into Bennington, and of course he's now out, and now he's getting to death threats. But I thought, St. Louis should come out and say, look, this is a hockey game. Let's not get carried away here. If you're a real fan of the Blues, you're not. Getting involved.
But again, you got to think and again, I don't know the person. I'm giving my opinion, but the mental health issue is a big thing too. Even go as far as these shootings and everything. Like what person in the right mind is going to do that kind of stuff? So
no, they aren't in the right mind. That's the thing. But the fact that it's, they get so much publicity from it. To me, that plays into it. You know,
Yeah.
they want to form and they get a big one. You know, so
man, that's so sick to be thinking that. Like,
but I've heard that like kickers in the NFL,
yeah.
when they
college kickers too, right? College
kickers get it all the time.
Yeah.
You know, death threats. And certainly journalists do it. The big thing too is like to the lengths that people will go now. Officials in basketball, I've read about this too as well, is people will research where they work and they'll show up there and harass them. I'm aware of a writer who.
I forgot to ask you this question. Did you see Take Me Out, the nude?
No, I have seen it in the past, but I didn't see it again. Obviously, I didn't. We did see 4 plays, musicals, but we did not see Take Me Out. I wanted to see the Neil Simon play, Plaza Suite, with Broderick and his wife, whose name escapes me right now.
I don't know this.
No.
So just tomorrow for Game 5, Ron Greshner and I are flying with 80 New York Ranger fans to Raleigh in a private jet to attend the game. We're going in the afternoon.
Wow, that's fun.
Yeah, that'll be a blast.
Yeah. Will there be ginger ale served on the airplane?
I will not be imbibing. I'll be, because we're on the road. Only that doesn't happen on the road, but there'll be several cocktails. When we went into Pittsburgh for Game 6, I was with about 20 Ranger fans, and man, they had several beverages. They were feeling pretty good. It was fun. They had a blast.
One of my favorite moments, I've been watching the World Championships. I don't know if you have watched them, but they had the Sweden team on there, and they had the 11 a.m. game or something like that. Yeah. And apparently the Swedish fan base that have traveled to Finland to watch this, they just got up and they went right at it. You know, they started in the pregame, and the announcers noted that after the first period that either we've lost some of the Swedish fans or they're taking a in-between period nap, because apparently they were passed out on their under seats. So Sarah, that's it. Sarah, I couldn't come up with it. It's terrible. Don't get old, Tom.
No, I'm not. We're never. You're not old. You're not getting old.
Well, I just chatted about this with my new doctor, who's younger than all my children, and she just said the same thing my old doctor said, which is it's names. You just have trouble with names, which is true. It's all the memory issue I have is I can't get the names as quick as I used to.
But do you think that was always the way? I try to think. Didn't I always have problems with names sometimes? Like when you're trying to remember.
I didn't. I've been on radio a lot, and I have them on the tip of my tongue. And I'm not saying everybody screws up a name. Like it's someone who sounds like a guy you went to high school with. So instead of saying John Smith, you say Jerry Smith because that's who you went to high school with. But I don't have the recall problem on names now. We're just common names. I just lose them. And then an hour later, I'm walking down the street and I go, oh, yeah, that was, so-and-so,
So here's the big, what's going to happen. So after the game Thursday night, we're going to go right to the airport. So a game, let's say, starts at 7, usually done, 9:30, 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock. By the time we get to the airport, I'm sure it's not too far away, Raleigh, right? By the time we get to the airplane, take off, what are we taking off? 11 o'clock?
Yeah.
And then probably an hour and a half flight. So it's 12:30, something like that. By the time we get home, it's probably 1 at 1 o'clock. Then wake up time is 3:30, no matter what. So we're going to.
I know that. Okay. All right. I marvel at it. And I respect you for it. I'm not envious though. So. I don't care to share your. Now I get up, we get up before 6 every morning, but it's not 3:30, so.
And right to the gym too. So again, we will not. Just so everybody knows, we will not be having our Thursday show at 2 o'clock with Ron Greshner, myself, and Larry Melnick. We're going to move that to Friday, but don't anybody tell Larry Melnick. We're just going to keep that a secret. We're not going to tell him.
So he's going to be waiting there the whole time and thinking.
He does that to us all the time. He always does that to us. So it's
how does he feel about how poorly you treat him?
He's fantastic, actually. Like he puts on this real grouchy act. But he's got a fantastic sense of humor. He actually loves it. He loves it. Right?
So he likes being the comic foil for the team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he does. So I don't know if you noticed that. So somebody writes these questions a lot, especially on Facebook. They go, "What was your favorite movie you ever saw?" So I'll always write the Larry Melnick story. What was your favorite band? It's the Larry Melnick band. So every question, the answer is Larry Melnick in some way. So,
All right. Well, yeah, makes sense. Um, any other subject we need to talk about in hockey? Yeah.
I'm trying to think. We go over menu. You weren't with us on Monday, so on the Sunday cooking, we had chickpea pasta. It was a pregame meal because we had a 3:30 game with the Rangers, so we turned it into a pregame meal. Some chicken, some chickpea pasta, lots of vegetables. Actually, a lot healthy. It's kind of a version of what I would have eaten back when I played, but a lot healthier than it was back then. So very happy.
Yeah. What would you have eaten when you were a player?
Yeah, so the meal was the same. It was I think we call it Irish spaghetti. I think we call it. So it's butter and cheese.
Yeah.
So a big plate of that, and then always vanilla ice cream with chocolate syrup on it.
Wow. Why is it called Irish spaghetti?
I don't know. I think that's what it was called. Somebody said that one time, and I just stuck with it. But then right to bed for a nice 3-hour nap. It is funny. You made this comment before, like here's a bunch of adult men, and we so look forward to our naps during the game. It's like it's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm not much of a napper anyway, but like I would be sluggish. Like if I slept 3 hours during the day, I would struggle. I'd get up and I go, whoa, boy, like I wouldn't feel like playing 21 minutes in an NHL game.
Right. It was funny too because pretty much everybody had the same routine. They have to close the window so it's just pitch black in the room and crank on the air conditioning. So you just
colder the better. I like the air conditioner set on Arctic tundra. So. There's no doubt.
I actually had a fun day yesterday. They had me go down. I was there at noon, and all the workers in Madison Square Garden, the office workers, the people doing accounting and everything, we had a little setup where they would come in to get the picture taken with me, and we'd make fun of everybody else. And I had a fun time. Then we went around Madison Square Garden and kind of firing up all the workers in there, people working in the concession stands and everything. They're pretty good. I walked into this one room where all the security guards and everything were, and they were having lunch, and I got them whooping up, and I got a standing ovation there. It's pretty good. They're having a lot of fun. It was good. They're all fired up.
Wow, man! So your skills as a motivational speaker are coming in use.
I'd like to think I had something to do with it, but they were pretty fired up as well. Like they were excited about the hockey game. They were really into it. So it was good.
Well, I wonder how long it's been since the team has been fired up. The fan base has been as fired up as they are now. I mean, you're close to the conference final, and it's looking good. The momentum right now is with the Rangers.
Yeah. Well, they went to the final thing. 2014? Like 2014. Yeah. Final. But I'll tell you this: it's not just where they are on this team. This team is it's fun to watch too. Like Shesterkin,
entertaining. Yeah,
the crowd with Shesterkin is fantastic. Game 3, he let in a bad goal. And you can hear it in the crowd sometimes. The mess where guards like, oh God, like this, but they love the team so much that you just feel the tension when something bad happens. But right away they started chanting his name again, Igor, and got into it. And it was pretty cool the way they realized, nope, okay, this is our guy. We got to get him going again. And it's the chance for him. The boos for Tony D'Angelo are fantastic. The crowd, as you can tell, it's electric. And again, they were really into it with when 2014, but there's something special about this team too. And I think they see the young kids, they're playing so well. So the future is there. Just fun to watch.
No, I like this Ranger team. And I do like the entertainment value of it. I think Shesterkin is an entertaining goalie too.
Yes.
I like watching him play.
Yeah, definitely. Susan, if it will help the team win, Susan, I will be dancing. Yes.
Shaking it for a good cause. Speaking of D'Angelo, he hasn't learned as much as he needs to learn. Like he still gets bothered, and you got to put that aside. Like I don't understand that. I look at all that nonsense, and I'm sure there are players that think like I do, and I just shrug. Like what's that all about? I'm trying to win a game there.
He spent so much time worrying about things that he shouldn't be worried about.
No, I don't get that. So
but, it's amazing. He's still a fantastic player too. That's the thing about.
Oh yeah, there's never any doubt to that. Yeah. Before he was ceremoniously removed from the Rangers. Like he had come off a great season.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
And he's very helpful to the Carolina Hurricanes. He gives them an element that they needed after Hamilton left. But he can't be bothered to the level that he is by that.
And you just like Rod Brind'Amour, from all what people say, the players just love him so much and respect him so much too. I'm assuming he's talking to DeAngelo, trying to get him to not do it. But
yeah. I mean, I would guess it just goes in one ear and out the other, because he is that type of guy. I mean, he would.
Colorado, St. Louis tonight. Colorado's up 3-1, so they're back in St. Louis then, right? Or no, back in Colorado for Game 5.
Right. Yeah.
What's your prediction there? It's over tonight.
It's over tonight. Okay. Yeah. It's too much to ask Husso to replace Binnington, even though he had a great regular season. You replaced him, Binnington, and then Binnington got his job back in the postseason, and Binnington had been great.
Yeah, totally.
So, I mean,
I'm going to go with like a 5-1 score, something like that too. I just think that Colorado.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about hockey scores too, is you don't even know what the final score means, and it's really causing problems in the betting world.
Yeah.
Because all these empty net goals and people, big time bettors don't want to bet on hockey because there could be 2 or 3 goals at the end.
Especially in a playoff game, right? Like Brind'Amour the other day, they were down by 1 goal. He pulled the goalie with like 2 minutes and 20 seconds to go or something, kind of early. But
right, yeah. So it becomes it's just not the same. I think people who do bet on hockey are more interested in prop bets, like will somebody score, or will we get one goal by Panarin and 1 goal by Adam Fox, and those kind of odds. So.
Who's Casey Musgrave? Do you know who Casey Musgrave is? Tom wants to dance with Casey Musgraves. I'm trying to think who Casey Musgraves is.
Yeah, I'm not really sure who that is either. So I'm sure you and I don't rate very highly in our pop culture knowledge.
It's true.
So I think Greshner's probably with us as well. So
he was watching the Johnny Depp trial and tell me about it. And I was like, oh God, I'm not watching that. But, no.
I'll tell you who probably could answer that. I bet it's Ron Duguay.
Oh yes, yeah, definitely.
Ron would know.
Apparently, we're told here that Casey Musgraves is a singer. Okay, we'll have to look her up.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. All right.
Ellen's helping us out today. So
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good show. All right.
Love it. All right. And we'll be back next week. If you want to read what I have to say about hockey, I'm at hockeybuzz.com and also DetroitHockeyNow.com.
Good. And again, if you want to listen to the radio version of this show, you can go to radio.co at 365 Sports. Let's go Rangers. We'll see everybody in Raleigh and have some fun. We'll see everybody next week here.